Hey everybody, Jeff Schneider here. If you want to get better at bebop soloing, this video is for you. I've got a great exercise for you. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start with a C major 7 in mind. The chord tones are C, E, G, and B. All right, that's 1, 3, 5, 7. And we're going to work on approaching each one of these chord tones because how you approach chord tones is a big part of getting that bebop sound. So we're going to start by approaching the root, that's C, and it's going to sound like this. So we're going to call the C our target note, and all of the notes leading up to that target note will be called the approach note sequence. So we're starting a scale tone above the target note. D is one note above C in the scale. Keep that in mind. We're going to need to reference that in just a bit. So you start a whole step above, go down a half step, then you're going to jump over the target note so that you're a half step below it, and then you go up one half step, landing on that target note C. All right, so that's the formula. Up a whole step from the target note, you go down a half step, then you jump over the target note so that you're a half step below it, and then you come back up and you land on that target, C. Okay, let's do the same thing on another one of the chord tones. Let's start on G this time, or let's target G this time, which is the 5th. All right, same thing. We're gonna start a whole step above, then we're gonna go a half step down, then jump over our target note, so that we're a half step below it, and then we go up one half step, and there's our target. Now the reason I went to G that time and skipped over our third is because when we go to the third, it's gonna be a little bit different. If we're targeting an E, I'm gonna go up one half step, which is F. All right, so this is gonna be a little bit different because now we're not starting a whole step above the target, we're a half step above. So this is gonna be, we'll call it approach sequence B rather than approach sequence A. We'll call the one like this, that'll be approach sequence A. This one's approach sequence A. All right, this one that we're about to do is going to be called approach sequence B. Here we go, it sounds like this. All right, so we're starting a half step above the target note, which is F. Then we jump over the target note so that we're a whole step below it. Remember, we're targeting E here. So we're a whole step below it, and then we're gonna go up the scale chromatically until we land on that E. All right, so how do you know whether you should use the approach note A sequence or B sequence? Well, it all has to do with how far above you are from the target note. If you're a whole step above the target, like this, you're gonna use approach sequence A. If you're a half step above the target, like this, you'll use approach sequence B. And this all depends on what is the next note in the scale above the target note that you're targeting. So let's do another one. You tell me, if we're targeting the 7 of C major 7, a B, what's a note above B in the scale? It's a C. And is a C a whole step or a half step above B? It's a half step. So that means we're going to use approach sequence B, which is half step above, then you jump over it so that you're a whole step below, and then you go chromatic up. All right, so now we have these two approach note sequences, and we're going to combine them all so that we go from the 1 to the 3 to the 5 to the 7. It'll sound like this. Approach the 1, approach the 3 with approach sequence B. Now we're approaching the 5 with approach sequence A, and then approaching the 7 with sequence B. Putting it all together, it sounds like this. You can also do it going down. So I'm going to start on the 7 this time, then approach the 5, then the 3, then the 1. So you can mess with the order as much as you want. You can start by approaching the 3, then the 5, then the 1, then the 7. You can scramble it however you want. But now let's do the same thing on a chord progression instead of just one chord. Let's do a 2-5-1 in the key of C major. So what's the 2 chord? It's D minor. We're going to do the same principle. We're going to start by approaching the root. Now what's a scale tone above the root? What's one note above in the scale of a D minor scale? It's E. We're a whole step above D, our target note, which means we're going to use sequence A. All right, same thing. We're going to approach F now, which is also going to be sequence A because one note above F in the scale is G, a whole step above F. Same thing for the 5, and same thing for the 7. So this is a little bit easier because each one of these chord tones you're going to approach using sequence A. Now we'll do it with the G7 chord because we're doing a 2-5-1 here. So we have D minor, G7. Let's do the approach sequences. There's sequence A, sequence B, that's sequence A, and sequence A. All right, so let's put it all together now. I'll start with D minor 7, then G7, then C major 7. And that's just going up. Remember, you can also go down like this. Now that sounds very methodical. It's very much an exercise, and that's the point. You want to get all of these different combinations under your fingers. But if you want to make it sound more musical and start to see how this exercise can transform into more musical bebop lines, check this out. That was a 2-5 line, a very quick one, and I only used those approaches. So I started by approaching the third of the 2 chord, which is D minor, so approaching that F, using sequence A, and then I approached the third of the 5 chord, which is a B, using sequence B, and then I approached the 5 of the 1 chord using sequence A. When you put it all together, you get this. That's a real bebop lick right there, and it's only using those 2 approach note sequences, targeting those chord tones of the 2, the 5, and the 1 chord. And then you can try using just the sequence to set up an idea, like say you have a little melody like this, and you kick it off with that approach note sequence. It sounds so much better, so much more interesting by adding that little frosting on top of the cake. Or take a more conventional lick that you might hear in a bebop solo, something like this. On a C major 7 again. So we're starting on an E, which is the third of C major 7, and what's a note above E in the scale of the C major scale? It's F, so we're going to use sequence B because of that half step right there, and go right into the lick. Now, if you want to learn more about my approach to soloing and learning how to improvise, I'm currently offering my soloing bootcamp program right now, which you can check out. It's at a massive discount, and you get all of my best soloing courses, including the soloing system, making the changes, improvising with the blues scale without sounding like an amateur. You get it all in this one bootcamp package at a great price. So I highly recommend you check that out. It's linked below and somewhere on the screen. And if you want another quick tip on how to sound better during your solos, highly recommend checking out this video right here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.